morning. My name's Mike. I'm going to show you how to do copper foil stained glass. It's one of my hobbies that I like to do. I haven't done it for probably about 2 or 3 years, so might be a little bit on the rusty side when it comes to cutting and grinding. But we're going to get through it together, and we're going to show you how to make some stained glass pieces. So I decided that I wanted to do a feather. So, oh, by the way, I'm Mike. Hi. Hi there. So a friend of mine, Leah, she actually can produce images and drop them onto vinyl sheets. So that's what we've done here. So all these feathers, probably a copyright infringement, but all these feathers she's pulled off the internet and actually printed it onto vinyl. Why we did that? Well, I find that it's easier to stick, so it's got a sticky backing behind it. I find that it's easier to stick it on the glass, so when we're actually doing the cutting and the shaping of the glass with the grinder, it just the vinyl stays put and doesn't come off like sometimes paper or using permanent marker. Permanent marker, I just find when you start grinding that it just kind of disappears. So I'm going to get started cutting the patterns out of the of our template, and then I'm going to place them on top of the glass itself, and then I'm going to start cutting and grinding and doing all sorts of interesting things. So I'm going to just lay this piece of vinyl on top of the glass. Make sure everything fits okay. So it fits like that. Alright, so I got a couple pieces cut up, or just vinyled up so far, so we're going to show you how to use the glass cutters. Now you always want to make sure you got your safety glasses on, because if you don't have the safety glasses on, little glass chips can fly around, so we want to make sure that we don't get any glass shards in our eye, because that doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. I find that just doing a forward cut, you can kind of see the whales coming out there, and just you want to go as close to the pattern as you can. You can kind of hear that cutting sound, and then you just get a pair of pliers and you can just cut it. That's all we got. So it's just this piece can go off to the side, and now this piece we're going to grind that afterwards. So I've just done some rough cuts on the glass. You can see there's a little bit of a edge on this one, a little bit of corner, so we're going to clean that up. But you can see how now our puzzle pieces are all starting to kind of take a little bit of shape, a little bit of form back into the original piece before we cut it out of the vinyl. So we're going to get over to the glass grinder, and we're going to start dressing that up. So I'm going to turn on the grinder, and I'm going to just grind some of this glass. Again, my safety glasses are on right here, and let's shape this glass and see how everything turns out. So it's very, very just a light pressure against the grinding stone. The grinding wheel takes a lot of glass off. If you push hard on it, it's going to take a lot of material off. So just lightly, what you want to do, instead of having it nice and shiny here, you want it dull. The copper foil tape has an adhesive backing, and it will adhere to that better than it will here as well. And plus, we still need to massage everything as well. Okay, so now you can see that piece, everything is the vinyl, everything's shaped to the size of the vinyling, and you can see all the edges are all nice and dull. There's and now it's a little bit less. There's less potential of getting cut as well because it's dulled the glass right out. Okay, so we have all the glass pieces cut and ground now. Now we just want to clean everything up because there's the coolant that's used in the grinder. It leaves residue. You can see the residue on it. So we're going to clean all the glass up, and I will come back and we'll start foiling the workpiece itself. Okay, so we have the feather mostly foiled up, but I just want to do a quick foil demo. So there's already some glass cleaner on this cloth, so I want to make sure that there's no residue from the coolant on there, and the grinding media as well. Just peel that back. We want to get it right in the center. We want to get it right in the center of the glass. Okay, and then we want to start working our way. Now there are little machines and tools and stuff to foil the glass. I just do it by hand, so you can see I have it a little bit off, so I'm just going to gently try and pull it back. Try not to touch it as much as I did, and then just start working it around the piece itself. Now we have a tool called a burnishing tool. We're going to give the copper foil a good rub so it's on. So it's on, it sticks onto that glass. I want to make sure that it's well stuck. I usually do the sides first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the foil tape over. Okay, so it has to overlap over top of the glass itself. A little bit of a final touch up here. Okay, so our next step is we're going to take it over to a different area and we're going to start doing the soldering process. So we're going to need some products. So we need some solder. So this is 6040 solder. I do buy it from the stained glass shop. And then there's a soldering iron. Now this one's all preheated, ready to go. So we want to make sure it's warm enough in order to do our soldering task. We also have, I have a little foam brush, and we also have some flux. Now the flux is a mild acid that will etch that copper. We're going to wash it off after it has been all soldered up. Okay, so I've applied some flux in some areas. I'm just going to apply a little bit more right here. Push this guy back in place. Make sure everything gets back. What we're going to do, we're just going to do some tacking. We're going to tack some of these areas. I got one spot already tacked up. So soldering iron is fairly hot, so you can see how the solder just flows nicely on there. And we're just going to touch that surface area. Now it does have to warm up. The surface area has to heat up too. Okay. Just going to put a little bit more solder here. Good. Okay. A little bit of solder right here just to hold some of these joints together. Okay, so we have the front side tacked up. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to start soldering the back side. Just flip it over and we're going to start so you can see where sometimes you get the solder bleed through in the back. So. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a bit and start flowing the solder. More flux here. Just knock off a little bit of solder here. Yeah, so I cooled it off and let it cool off, and I flipped it over. And see what I mentioned about bleed through? So I'm just going to flux this area, and now I'm going to just make that solder flow, and all those little pockets, all those little excess, amounts of solder, we're just going to flow it all into the, areas of the feathers. So I'm just going to tidy this up a bit. There's a little piece of solder there that we can just pick off. The solder won't stick to the glass. It will stick to the copper foil, but it won't stick to the glass. Alright. Just touch this all up a bit, flip it over. I'm going to check the back side and then see where we're at. So we're just on the back side right now. I just want to make it flow just a little bit better on the back side. Okay. So I'm just trying to tidy up and just finish tinning the edges. Sometimes if there's a little bit too much solder, you can just kind of just make it flow, and then if there's too much, you can just flick it off and get it off the tip. So otherwise, it'll just continue to flow. So So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some of the very fine, it's ultra fine steel wool. It's so it's we call it 4/0, so it's 4 zeros, and and it'll do actually a really nice job just kind of tidying up all the solder joints and dressing it all up. So I'm going to get started on that. Let it cool down once again, and then we'll kind of get to our last section of the our last part of our project. Perfect. Okay, next step, patina. So this is some copper patina. I'm going to put it into a small little shot glass. We're not going to do any shots because I don't think that's going to fare out very well for us. So I'm just going to put a small amount in, pretty blue color. And I have used the steel wool, so I just use the steel wool just to kind of dress up the solder joints. Washed it, and now at the final step is just applying some of this patina. So this is pretty cool actually. What it's going to do is it's actually going to turn it back into a copper color like it was before we started soldering it. So just after the foiling process, you can kind of see how it's starting to turn back into our copper color. At the end of it, after everything kind of settles in there, we're going to wash it off, do a final wash, and then we'll give it to my daughter's friend, and she can hang it up wherever she wants to hang it up. Cool, huh?